Hey,
It is my belief that games show other people that people do have the bestest of intentions, right? A well-designed game, at least the games that we design and the direction we try to take them, push people to think that yes, others are working towards what they think their best interests are, and it teaches you to humanize this perspective. I think that's something that's really lost nowadays is the humanization of the other and even defining them as the other in the first place. And so getting more people engaged in games, in my hope, is going to show the humanity that exists out there and is in everything we look at. We just don't always see.
hey, welcome to Game Lair, where we explore the science of play and the quest of learning. I am your host, David Colmer. Theme music by Caleb Willits. Welcome down to Game Lair.
I play piano.
I play chess.
I play everything.
I play games of my own invention.
I'd like to move to the domain of play.
How is building and maintaining a business similar to playing and winning a game? Season 2 delves into casting the business owner card, exploring the entrepreneurial play. Hello, Eleanor. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule today. I really appreciate your time.
Of course, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So how's the day going for you so far? You said you're back at home. You're back in D.C., got your Duke picture behind you. Yeah.
Day's going pretty well.
Good.
My team is in person here today, and I baked them a lime cake yesterday, a lime loaf cake. So I'm really excited for after this. I'm going to eat that. So
that sounds brilliant. Really Can you tell me more about this lime cake? I really want to hear about that. I'm a foodie.
Yeah. No. So for the 4th of July, which was like almost a month ago now, like 2-3 weeks ago, I got a bunch of key limes. I make key lime pie, and I did not know how much juice key limes produce. So I also got a bunch of limes just in case. And so I had like 40 extra limes in my fridge. Nice. Not exaggerating. And I didn't know what to do with it.
40.
Yeah, like 40.
Okay. That's a lot.
And so I squeezed all of them while watching Jeopardy. And I said, what can I make with this? And I found on the internet lime loaf, which is like lemon pound cake, but it's lime pound cake. It's very similar.
That sounds really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Delicious. It was good. I had it last night for dinner.
Good. And now you're going to have key lime for lunch.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I had like
I'm on board.
Lime. Yeah, I had lime loaf cake and like 2 scrambled eggs. And it was perfect. Okay. It's like all you need.
Oh, that's fantastic. That sounds really good. I just had an omelet, like a Thai omelet with a bunch of cut up broccoli and carrots and Thai.
Really yeah, because you lived in Thailand for a while, yeah?
I did, yeah. And I think it's like we grow all these Thai herbs around our house, and they grow really well in Missouri. So it works out. You know, it's seasonal. In Thailand, it's going to be like a perennial, they say, right? In the States, it'll be more like an annual. So you got to start over every year. But a lot of them, the seeds drop and they come back next year. So not a perennial, but then also it just keeps happening. So
that's so lovely to have like fresh herbs growing around.
It's not bad. Living the dream, right? You know, on the lime thing too, I have an idea for that. So I got into fasting for a while, intermittent fasting.
Okay.
What I do with the lemons, I know that sounds kind of scary, but I'll drop a whole lemon in the blender with some like stevia, like the sweetener, and just blend that up and drink it. And it doesn't sound good, but it fills you up and it just makes you feel great. I did that this morning. It's just kind of
interesting.
Hey, Dave here. You might wonder why I'm talking about drinking lemons in a blender. It's related to intermittent fasting, or more specifically, how to break a fast. Why am I interested in intermittent fasting? Well, losing weight is kind of cool, but there's also this new research around something called autophagy or autophagy, which is Greek for self is auto and phagy is eating. Autophagy is a normal cellular recycling process that breaks down damaged proteins and worn out cell parts. Fasting can stimulate it by reducing nutrient and insulin signaling and shifting cells toward energy conservation pathways. Animal and laboratory evidence strongly supports this link, and early human studies are suggestive at best. But scientists have not established a reliable fasting duration or proven broad health benefits. specifically from triggering autophagy. So intermittent fasting should not be viewed as a guaranteed cellular cleanse strategy, but it probably couldn't hurt. All I know is broken RNA and broken DNA, those things lead to cancer. So if I can lose weight and clean out my body at the same time and feel way better and lighter on my feet, hook me up with 20-hour fasting once a week or once a month, and I'm on Dave's Happy Bus.
Interesting. No, I have a belief that we all intermittent fast. It's called sleep. And so
Correct. And that's why we in the morning have a break fast, right? So yeah,
exactly.
I'm with you. We do
there
that.
you go.
Yeah. That's the only way I can do it is like eat an early dinner and then skip breakfast. Otherwise, yeah. I want to start. Let's just start the show right there. Where are you from? So you come from, is that South Carolina? Am I right? Am I close?
Yeah, I'm from South Carolina originally. I grew up in Charleston.
Okay.
It's like in a smaller area, like in
I've been
Charleston
there.
County, but not Charleston proper.
That's a nice town. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is super lovely.
fun.
So I grew up like
Yeah.
surrounded by good Southern food, real appreciation of the outdoors, and my entire family are very like politically active and very like civil engagement focused. So I grew up with that being a really important part of my life. I'm really lucky.
And
for
that seems to still be, right? You're very engaged in getting people out to vote, right? That's a big thing for you, I think, right?
Yeah, no. So like back in the day, it was crazy for anyone who is listening. I met with Dave prior to this chat, and I had a lot on my LinkedIn, and he went and read all of it. And I was like, wow, I really do have a lot of things on there. And one of them is that I was really involved in Get Out the Vote and just nonpartisan voting engagement. And during the 2020 election, so during the primaries, I served as absentee ballot clerk in South Carolina, where I got to see and deal with hand in hand kind of how you engage in absentee ballot and what that looks like. I stayed late on election night because my mom told me never do anything half. You always stay late. And so the shift ended, and it was COVID. I had nothing to do because it was, 2020, and I had nothing to do. And so
yeah,
I stayed late till 10 p.m. and then they offered me a job. So I worked there the whole summer.
Cool. That's great. That's what happens when you hang around, right? You end up getting a job. So
yeah, honestly, you just put yourself out there and you engage
awesome.
a little more.
100%. So we also have a shared background in serving. You were at the front of house at the Co-op Gourmet Sandwiches, right? And we were joking about how that's still on your LinkedIn.
You know
so
what?
What was that position like?
It shows that I'm a multifaceted person. Okay, I have many levels.
Right. Yeah.
No, I've actually done a little bit more of it. I worked in a bed and breakfast in France for a little bit. I worked at a hostel in Morocco as a yoga teacher, but I also helped serve breakfast in both of those cases. And so
I have questions about that all later. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think I really have always loved talking with people, and lots of people like tutor or babysit. That's great. I really just liked working at the front of the house. And I won the person who upsold the most avocado when I was 15. So I don't know if there's anything that will ever top that. I upsold the avocado.
I don't know how you could top that. Yeah. Was there toast involved, or was it just avocado?
It was on sandwiches. If you have an avocado, and then you got a bonus. I got $100 bonus.
Now you're talking. Money talks, right? Eleanor?
Right?
Money talks. Yeah.
I was like, avocado's so. I didn't even like avocado at the time.
I'm way more involved now that there was $100 involved. So
yeah. Well, I was 15, there's not much. $100
That's a lot.
Goes a long way.
$100 goes very long when you're 15. Yeah.
Yeah.
Game Layer Radio is brought to you by Quick Author, QUIK author.io. Make professional e-learning and microlearning course creation fast and accessible for anyone. No authoring tool experience needed. Access rapid templates for building and editing, and use AI to generate foundational content. Convert videos and PDFs to courses in a snap. Build games and quizzes around policy documents. You like vibe coding? Bring your own code and embed it in the training. The science-backed evolution of e-learning. Microlearning meets people in the moment they need it, gets finished, and actually changes how they work. Higher completion, faster time to productivity, better feedback. And with Quick Author, it takes an afternoon to build, not a project plan. Quick Author, QUIK author.io. I want to hear about your love of writing. Really want to hear about your interest in writing. You mentioned that. It was almost off the cuff, but What got you into writing, or when did you discover that you love that, or that's something you like?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of art in any form, and writing is kind of the most accessible version for me right now. I grew up doing a lot of theater. I'm a very
Oh,
theatrical person. I think,
hey, same. Cool.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think people who do theater as kids transition more broadly into like engage like active facilitation, lots of simulations. If you look at especially the women who are involved in simulations, a lot of them have theater backgrounds because I think you do have to really put yourself out there, and theater prepares you
Okay.
for that. And writing is another version, and or in my opinion,
Yep.
a form of art expression. I have no drawing or artistic capabilities like that, but I've always loved writing, and I was not very good at it. And then when I was like 15 also, I told my mom, which is a long time ago. We'll talk about my teenage years. But I told my mom, I was like, I need a writing tutor. Someone needs to make me better. And so for an entire
Cool.
year, I would write essays every week to try to get better at
Yeah.
writing. And she would mark it up, and my mom would mark it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's like
it's-
me going to piano lessons every week or something. You were serious, right?
Yeah,
Like
I did.
you.
I actually would go from piano lessons to my writing teach tutor
That's
as
awesome.
well.
I have a speckled past with writing. So it's kind of why it's interesting to me because I can't spell. I've always tried really hard to spell. It's always been really important to me and I can't do it. I just am awful. So I think there's like this speckled past for me with writing. And more recently, I've really gotten into it and it's fun to write. So I was just curious. And I'd like to kind of connect that to your work overall because I think, do you feel that the writing connects to you creating war games? Right? It seems like you alluded to that. Do you want to?
Yeah. So
do
when
you
I,
think?
I was actually in a chat this morning. I met someone at 7:30 a.m. at a coffee shop because it's DC, and you're
That's
out and
cool.
about, and everyone wants to chat. And she was absolutely lovely, and she was talking about kind of what she's involved in, and she does a lot of creative writing. And I think there is a
Okay.
distinct connection between being a good writer, doing creative writing, and shifting into quality simulations, at least the type we design, right? So whenever I
Okay.
take out like ask for job applications, I tell people send me an analytical piece and send me a creative writing, right? I want to be able
Okay.
to hear your voice, your style, your reading, and
Cool.
read it and engage with it. And that's just
Yeah.
really something I think is central in order to being creative, because if you're a good writer and you're creative, then you can think outside the box, which is necessary for the type of simulations that we design.
I think it sort of registers as an organized mind as well, too, right? And maybe a creative mind as well, right? But it's just writing is more about thinking than I thought before, I guess. And that's why I'm getting into it, I think.
Yeah, I think it's about thinking, and I also think it's about emotion.
Okay.
Right. And that's what
Yeah.
I really try to push forward in all of our games. One of the
Okay.
games we're designing right now has a really heavy focus on the impact that tariffs have, whether positive or negative in the US, even though we're designing it about a fictional country. And you want people to feel, you need to write it in a way that makes people angry or happy or, engaged in the subject. And so that's why writing is so important, right? A good writing, yes, I completely agree. It involves thinking, but unless you're doing like an analytical piece, and if you're doing something more creative, it really does need to involve that emotional component, something that like pulls your soul in a way.
That really connects it back to the learning and the training element, right? And that, yeah, as a training facilitator, you want to open up with something that's going to hook people, right? You want to get them emotionally involved. So
Yeah,
totally
no,
makes
I
sense.
completely agree.
Yeah.
You have to make a connection with people, right?
Yeah.
And whether
Sure.
you're facilitating in person, like I do a lot, remote, like I did yesterday for a game, or
Okay.
you're just writing a piece, it needs to make a
Uh-huh.
connection, or there's no point in having it out there, or less of a point at least.
100%. I want to talk more about Duke. So you did your undergrad and you studied languages, right? How did you fall on that? Or when did you know, I'm going to go study? Well, what did you study? And how did that happen?
Yeah, so I think it all like kind of wraps up into me wanting to understand the world a little bit better than I did, right? So I did a lot of reading when I was younger. I did a lot of theater and things like that, and I always had this feeling that I was missing out on something. And so when I was, and this comes back to Duke. So when I was 18, you're getting young in me, Duke offered, it was like the second year of its inaugural gap year program. So they would pay for you to take a year off. And I said, absolutely. I'm going to pay a crap ton of money to go to this school. Give me money for a year, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you could apply for anything, and I applied to move to Senegal. So I moved to rural Senegal, and I thought I was going to learn French. And I went to an area where they speak French, but they don't really speak it with their families or at home. They speak Wolof, which is like the lingua franca. Like 80% of people in Senegal speak it, and some surrounding countries as well. And so I learned Wolof. I have this very vivid memory of I got there, they gave me a new name, which was Aja. And then like I walked out with my notebook and like I like just pointed at things and was like, give me words, and like tried to write them in like transliteration version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a transliteration version of what we were putting together. So we'll pause because I forgot to put my thing on Do Not Disturb. So I got the ping.
It's all good.
It's on D&D.
No,
now.
It's the real world. I like it. It's
I know, it's the real world.
It's texture. Yeah. We're here. We're alive. Yeah.
We're live. Yeah. But it's the what I was saying was I got to Senegal and I went outside and I had just people trying to show me new words, right? And try to like collaborate and engage. And when I got back to the States, I wanted to get more involved in that language. At Duke, actually, one of the Arabic teachers was originally from Senegal, which was just a coincidence. That was amazing. His name is Bailo. He's absolutely amazing. And I started taking Arabic classes with him. I would speak Wolof with him occasionally.
Cool.
And he was really, integral in me developing into the language capabilities I have and becoming an Arabic major at Duke and studying Northwest Africa and working for him on a journal about researching Africa and publications and things like that. And it was kind of the beginning of this love of languages and more engagement too.
So could you speak a few things in Wolof? Because before last week, I hadn't even heard of this language. And now you're explaining it. Can I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
Can you say, like, hey, how's it going? Or...
Nagadef, magnifique, rek, not rek. Sorry, I have like two different versions. And so the problem is Wolof sounds very similar in some areas to Darija, which is a language that I learned in Morocco. But you say, anytime you're talking to someone, you say Nagadef, which is how are you? And you say magnifique or magnifirek, which is like I'm good or I'm only good.
Magnifique. It's kind of French. Yeah.
Yeah. Magni. It's more like magnifi, like I am here. That's like what it literally means, really.
Wow. Thank you for listening to Game Layer. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and especially review wherever you found us. This keeps us in the charts and helps other learners find us as well. If you got something out of an episode, please be sure to share it with someone who you think will like it.
And then I would say like Ajalatodu, which is like my name's Eleanor.
Okay.
Or my name's Aja, which is what I went by.
Yeah.
But I usually tell people like Fatina sama Wolof, which is like I really want to talk in Wolof, but I really can't because I've forgotten it. Which is what I learned in Japanese. Which is the line I tell everyone. Yeah, it's like watashi wa nihongo gakusei. Yeah, I'm a Japanese student. Just go easy on me. Yeah. Yeah, I don't speak any Japanese, so I got none of that. But it's like a more in your throat language, so it's like cool. Like I like how I think it's fun. At least it's like back here. I mean,
it's
I just
not what I
exaggerated how you say it.
It almost does sound a little more French. Yeah.
Yeah. I also I went back and studied Wolof in French. So like it was like I went back the next year and my teacher didn't really speak English. So I studied Wolof in French. So
that's really cool. That's awesome.
It's fun.
I love language. If I ever go back to school, I want to talk about how the language we learn shapes the way we think.
Yeah, it 100% does. There's actually a lot of studies on this.
Yeah, right. I haven't just dug into them or anything, but I really want to read more about this concept because learning like Thai, I lived in Thailand 7 years and learned Thai, and it literally, the language actually programs them into that culture. Does that come up in your work at all? Is what I'm leading up to, right? It seems like it would.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like, whenever we're creating games, we always make sure to talk to people from actually those nations who study those areas to try to make sure it's actually accurate. And we're not like Westerners or Americans imposing a view of China onto this China game that we're developing. So we really do try to integrate it.
Uh-huh.
I think it's funny, like, I don't know, there's probably an article somewhere, but like Americans, we say thank you constantly. And in Wolof, the word for thank you is jerejef. And you say nyokbok, which is like, thank you, you're welcome. Or like, it's nothing. That's kind of what it means.
Yeah.
And I would say jerejef all the time. And they would like laugh at me. They're like, you give me a pen. I'd be like, jerejef. They'd be like, why? What are you thanking me for? So it's interesting. Like, I was just like, oh, it's just like they'd be like a laugh thing. I don't know if that was, I think
That's
people
funny.
make generalizations too much about like entire areas. But like at least
Yeah.
where I was living in Senegal, I thought that was hysterical. How I would just like say thank you about everything. You open the door, you like move a little, you do things like that. They
Yeah.
thought it was funny that I would do such.
The same thing happened to me in German. When I was learning German, I would say ich liebe all the time, like I love.
Yeah.
And the lady was like, you can't love playing piano. We don't do that in Germany. You know, it's just kind of like this realization that we do say that a lot in America, right? We're like, I love going to the gym. It's like,
Do you?
Do
It's
you
like an
love it?
exaggeration, kind of. I was
Yes.
in the UK
Yes.
running like a NATO game
Okay.
a few weeks ago, and I was out in Oxford, and I was like, I was on a tour because I had like a day off, and I was like, oh, it's a gorgeous day, and the tour guide went, oh, what an American, it's a fine day, which I thought was funny.
That is funny. Yeah. The English give me the most trouble for how I talk. So I can relate to that. Yeah.
So it's even what I'm saying is like it's very localized, you know, the way we
Yes.
speak, the way we engage, and that's
Colloquialisms.
passed down from generation to generation.
I guess what I'm getting at is you have to be sensitive to the culture, right? And I think you kind of articulated that pretty well. So you keep bringing up these war games, right? What are war games? We keep kind of dancing around the subject, right?
Yeah.
What is a war game?
So a war
Gotcha.
game, we call them, so war games and simulations are similar but different, right?
Okay.
So I run both, right? War games are, I would say simulations are a type of war game and war games are a type of simulation, but they are, the types I do at least, are role-playing exercises to train you for future events or engagements or to do analysis or to prepare you for something that hasn't happened yet. Sometimes they're also used as like an after action review to say like, oh, I could have done this or I should have done this better. But what we do at Expert Theory is we run simulations to make people think different. And we're trying to democratize access to this style of learning, to this style of training and engagement. And we have a platform called Providence that we use in order to do so. And so we'll run simulations on there for just a wide variety of people from like government, to universities, to businesses and everything in between in order to have them train their people better and faster in a honestly really affordable way.
That's interesting. So how would you go about getting a contract, or how would someone contact this entity you just mentioned, Expert Theory?
Yeah, so people usually reach out to us over our website. So it's experttheory.com.
Okay.
And people reach out to me over LinkedIn. I'm Eleanor Ross, if anyone's listening. But a lot of it is by word of mouth, right? So I'm really involved in the simulation and wargaming community at this point. And so people have heard about the platform. People are moving towards AI methodology or AI powered platforms with humans at the center. And our platform is, I would say, one of, if not the top one out there for that in a matrix style role playing game, as opposed to a kinetic traditional tabletop style.
You had used a phrase similar to that. I think it was kinetic side of war. Is that different, or is that the same thing?
Yeah. So kinetic is armed conflict that uses lethal force or some type of force or traditional weaponry or visual destruction. That is what war games have been previously focused on, right? So there's usually a map of some sort on a board. They're hexes, which are like little shapes of some sort, literally like hexagons often.
Sure.
And people are moving items on a board. That is a traditional style of war game. It usually mirrors or shows ships moving, guns going off, battle formation, honestly, relatively speaking. That is not what I do, right? My background is not military. My background is much more research-based, engagement-based, language-based, as I talked about. And so what we focus on is the non-war side of war, right? That's not even true. The non-kinetic side of war. So the non-shooting, the non-boats moving, the narrative warfare, the diplomacy that's needed. We even do like PMISI, which is often used in military intelligence as a lens to talk about like behavior and resilience. It stands for political, military, economic, social, information, and infrastructure. So PMISI. And then there's like two other ones, PT. But the idea is that we can show that through talking and discussion. And so it can be an addition or a complement to any of those more kinetic military games as well.
Okay. So a lot to do with diplomacy. That was a theme that we had gotten to before.
Yeah.
Something I was thinking about just this morning. What about the concept of maybe demonizing other nations or groups of people into sort of like a non-human or even an animal entity. Does that ever come up, or does that topic ever relate to what you're doing, or is it more high level, do you think?
So we try to humanize and make every game we run tangible. That's one of the
Okay.
benefits of our system. So people have
Okay.
names, people have backgrounds, people have stories. People even like, let's say, you know, I'm an American. We're, you know, writ large, we say like China is one of America's enemies, right? Or like America's forces, negative forces, right? I'm trying to up the caliber of American capabilities on a national security level. That doesn't mean China, I'm going to represent them negatively, because I promise you the Chinese people in the military don't think they're bad people. They think they're good people doing good things, just like the people in the American military or in American companies think they're good people doing good things. And there is some of truth in both of that, in both of those
Right.
situations. And that's what we
I
really
love
want
that.
to mirror. And that's what's different about the style of games we do, is they really do
Okay.
hone in on the person and the understanding, because you get that level of understanding and their like the language kind of, right? How they've been trained in it, how they've been
Yeah,
raised generationally to believe that.
sure.
Then you're
Yeah.
able to engage with them better when you are negotiating, doing diplomacy, doing track two diplomacy, having just discussions, generally speaking, in public at forums, or doing business transactions, or in the event of military engagement, actual military engagement too.
Mhm. Well, that's helpful. That's interesting. It sounds like it was a relevant question. I wasn't sure if it was going to connect to what you do at all, but it sounds like it's almost core to your brand, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
it
core to my
almost,
identity, really, honestly.
yeah. Now, that was kind of where I want to move next is what's your personal interest in this? It seems like you are very personally motivated to be doing this work. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. I'd like to hear about the why. Like, how did you get into this and why does it seems to feed you, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what I really believe in is that people need to talk to each other more and engage with
Mm.
each other more. Right. At least in the States where I'm from, people are becoming more and more divided. And I see simulations as one of the best ways to make people and encourage people to engage with each other much more than they have been previously. And so that's where I really draw a lot of my love for what we do. I got into it initially as an undergrad at Duke in like a part of a simulation course. And it was the first place I saw people completely change their perspectives, right?
Yeah.
On like other countries that they saw as inherently negative in such a speedy fashion. And so I really loved that aspect of simulations and engagement, and I'm hoping with this company and with our platform and be able to make that engagement and much more accessible to people across the states and our allies as well.
Yeah. No, and I see that you also mentioned you're sort of a people person, and that's coming through as well, right? You've talked about that
Yeah.
several times. Yeah. So you like getting out and interacting with people, right? And so I think
Yeah.
that seems to be a motivator for all this as well. Just this love of mankind or of
Yeah.
humans.
There's this book I really love. It's called Humankind.
I've heard of
It's
that.
a yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
I
book
haven't
about
read
how
it.
people are like inherently good. I'm of this
Yeah.
belief, at least everyone thinks they're inherently good, right? No one thinks what they're doing. Okay, very few people think what they're doing is evil. And everyone has reasons for what they are doing. And I think the book doesn't really get into that perspective of it, but I think if we approach the world from a much more giving and open-minded type of way, not only will we be happier, but we'll engage more positively with each other, which is something I think we're missing. And I hope that our simulations are pushing people towards, right? Try to bring people into these games that have different opinions because A, you learn more from other people who don't think the same as you, and B, it's just good to have more connections, honestly.
Yeah. Those are both wins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
And
have an
so,
example of something you've put together that you think achieves that? Or could you run me through something maybe a little bit more
yeah.
fine-tuned or closer up?
Yeah, sure. So we ran a simulation on resilience and resistance in the event of an invasion of Taiwan for
Okay.
Department of War, Department of Defense for the US government, along with the Regular Warfare Center and Arizona State University. And that game we ran really brought together all people from all spectrums. So we had students there, we had military, we had government, we had private companies, and we had practitioners. And the idea was to bring people who might not inherently be together or have these discussions into one room and force these conversations. And it was incredibly successful, and we'll likely run it again in the future. It was one of my favorite games that I've run. But there were many goals with the game. But one of them was physically just bringing those people into the room, right? To talk, engage.
So just the act of getting those different demographics in the room was already a win. Yeah. Just having that was already a win. Was already a win. Yeah. That's cool.
I think so as well. It's already a win if you're able to bring people together. And, I ran a AFRICOM, Southcom game where that was literally like a game for the US AFRICOM and US Southcom game a long time ago in partnership with another company. And one of the things that we did there was literally one of the stated goals was to bring industry and government together. So if something happens and you need to do an emergency, you can pick up your phone and you can call them. And you just have that connection right available.
That's cool. Yeah, it's very different than the work I do. And that's what I really like about it is I feel the impact of this. Like, even though you're just telling stories about it, it seems obvious that, wow, there's got to be a sense of purpose to this work, right? Not that I don't feel a sense of purpose in my work. I do. But, in my job, you can always say, well, it's not life and death. But then can you say that with your work, do you think? Is it?
It depends, right? Like there's various levels of everything. I think, in my opinion, people think in extremes too often, right? Sure. The stuff we see on the news, I always tell people, stop looking at read the news, but stop looking at the extremes. I don't want to hear about one, sounds terrible, random example. But I don't want to hear about this one woman who married her AI boyfriend to scare people away from the use of AI, right? There are many reasons not to engage with AI or to use it in a more holistic or thoughtful approach.
Yes.
But you do not want to scare people away from this, with this idea. And so think about things larger. A lot of the way the media exists and engages is to put us in that perpetual sense of fear. And so even with what you're talking about now on thinking on these extremes, perhaps there is a life or death impact, but I think generally speaking, there is a positive impact in what I do and what you do as well in bringing people together and making them think more analytically and having tough conversations in order to push humanity towards a better place.
Yeah, I also think about that as binary thinking, right? It's either on or off, or it's black or white. And I think that's a very dangerous mindset. So
I agree.
That's kind of how I perceive that. Made me think of something else too. And yes, there's a Freakonomics episode that I got into once, and it's talking about a scientist who's talking about selective outrage, where people saw this footage of a giraffe getting shot in the head, and these school children unfortunately saw it. And then there was this huge backlash against that zoo, right? Well, what a terrible zoo. And it was somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in Africa, maybe, I think. And the whole world was just out to punish this zoo for their lack of humanity, right? And then the whole other side of the story is the zoo knew that this giraffe was sick and it was in pain, and they were putting it out of its misery. And yeah, it's unfortunate some kids saw it. But is this really that more important, than other nations where people are just starving to death? Is this news more important than that? So it's interesting perspective. And now I'm just recapping another podcast. But right. Does that resonate with you at all? This concept of selective outrage where we just we look at a guy marrying an AI bot and now we're all getting mad, right?
Yeah. I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, right?
Okay.
The idea that you see what you are given and what you want to see in some aspects, right? So I think personal biases often permeate what we do and what we learn. And one of the things games do well is they can, if done correctly, right, they can unseat those biases that exist. And so hopefully if we were to game out the media crisis that unfolded from that, just given a crazy example, one thing we could do is the zoo saying, no, we put it out of this misery. Let's show you the whole idea. And then probably the media, at least some of it, not all of it, because again, not all media is inherently inherently negative. I'm very pro certain media outlets. One thing that you could do is some media is going to be like pushing that narrative that, oh, this zoo in Africa is terrible. And others are will say, well, it was for this reason. Actually, it's positive and, blah, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's the idea that your biases permeate what you work on. And so I always say, zoom out. What are you missing in any topic? If something's making you mad, you got to ask yourself why, right? And should it really be making you mad? Because I bet your attention could be better spent somewhere else.
Right. And I like that. And it kind of goes back to the individual, like you were saying, right? Like having this sense of critical thinking right? Is this really as bad as it seems? Taking things out of context, like, it doesn't lead to a good place, really.
No, I completely agree with you. Taking things out of context, it's the context that makes it memorable and makes it exist for a reason. And we need to bring that back, in my opinion.
And the context that gives it actual meaning. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so gonna shift gears hard here, just like dropping down to the low gear real quick. I love yoga. I'm a yoga practitioner. I studied theater, so I really got into yoga in theater school, and I do yoga almost every day. And so I really want to hear about your experience becoming a yoga instructor, just randomly, out of the blue. Did you get certified first, or how did this all unfold?
Yeah. So I decided to get certified. I think it was my sophomore year when I was an undergrad at Duke. They had a program at this place called Yoga Off East, which is like Off East campus, which is the freshman side of campus at Duke. And I thought, I'm never going to have a better time to do this. I was working like 3 jobs at a time. There's so much time in the day to decide to go get yoga certified, which I did. And it was one of the best decisions I've made. It really taught me a lot more about grounding myself and the idea that you need to take a moment for you too. And I love the energy that I get, like commanding a room in a yoga class. I think it's similar to the energy I feel when I facilitate a really successful game. One thing I think people don't get is they don't know when they're good at something, and they don't know when they're bad at something. It's going to sound a little full of myself, but I know I'm a good yoga facilitator, and I know I'm a good game facilitator because you train in it, you work on it, you work really hard. And so I'm really proud of teaching at Duke when I was an undergrad there, like 3 times a week. And then I spent an entire summer teaching yoga in Morocco in like English and French and Arabic, or Darija, which was really just a blast. And so this idea of it is another form of fun. Honestly, I don't do it for anything else. I think it's just a way to make me feel like me.
Yeah, I love how you connected back to fun. I don't think I expected that. That's awesome. Yeah.
Bring back fun. I always tell people, bring back whimsy, bring back fun. The reason our games are so successful is because that like philosophy also permeates what we do, right?
Okay.
At any of our games, you're definitely going to be engaged, and you're likely going to be having fun, if not just a good time, because of the way we've set it up. It's created with that in mind, with that as one of the main goals. And there's a clear reason for that. And the clear reason is that the impact will be stronger. And also it's more fun for us, right? Like my team, everyone who I work with, if you're having a good time, you're more likely to want to stay at a company and continue it, but feel the impact you're having because you can see it on their faces. And so I think I'm of the belief that we really do need to bring back whimsy and fun in our work, at least the outlook we have, and in our hobbies too.
Yeah. There's a podcast that I heard long ago on NPR, and I've been looking for it for maybe 5 or 10 years. And it was about a scientist who's done research on this. And when you're having a good time, those memories are encoded much stronger in the mind, right? Those synapses are really, really powerful. And I'm really upset with myself that I can't find that. I forgot which show that was on.
Yeah.
But I'm sure the research is, findable. If you ever find it, let me know. I'd like to read more about that. But that's kind of core to my theme, right? That's why I'm calling this game layer, is bringing back play. So it's the same idea, right? Where we have this whimsical idea of this is more engaging for me, and therefore the memory is going to be stronger. And if we're working in the learning field, well, don't we want stronger memories, right?
Yes.
So, yeah. Very similar thing. We talked about yoga. What else have you designed that you're very proud of? I know you've given you opportunity to talk about several different projects you've worked on with wargaming and, well, now yoga. But Any other games that you've made that you think really hit the mark or that you're really proud of?
Yeah, there is a game that I just personally really love. I think it
Okay.
might be, and I've said this on many a conversation in a few podcasts, my favorite game that I've ever done. It was another game with the Evaluative Warfare Center at Arizona State University, and it was a game on agricultural warfare and what it actually looks like if we were to cut off inputs to the states on things that our farmers do need and the downstream impacts that that would have. And similarly, we brought in a wide range of stakeholders to actually play the game. And the first test version we did of it, we brought in a lot of students as well in order for them to see the game in action and to test it. And it really is a game that hits close to home. I don't know why I'm not like, I don't have family who owns a farm, or I don't own a farm myself. But I think the idea of making the local impacts of something feel tangible is really near and dear to me. I grew up really engaged and still am really engaged in at least learning about what's happening in like local politics and local events that are going on. I think often in games that's forgotten. And so in this game that we designed, we really made it important for people to feel the impacts. Even in this game, we had role players who would go in and explain like they're going to have to kill all their cows because they can't get the feed in time. We had people go in and say that and cry and be upset. And including that local level really, really, I feel like made me feel that we were having a stronger impact in the sector writ large when we were actually designing it.
So the people that were killing their cows, are these people that were on your team or were these participants in the game?
So for that, we had someone on our team go in and role play and be like, if y'all don't figure this
Okay.
out, we're going to
That's
have
what it
to,
sounded like.
do a culling. Yeah.
Okay. I get it. So that was kind of setting the narrative of the whole situation in a way.
Yep, exactly. And making it feel tangible and real, right? Maybe
Yeah.
not fun, but definitely engaging.
Fun's a relative term,
Fun's relative,
maybe you're
yeah.
right. Maybe you're a nihilist. Who knows?
Perhaps. Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? You might be up for that. Yeah. I kind of want to hear more about the logistics. So like you've clearly defined the problem. And then how did the learners go about solving this problem? Or what were the game mechanics they had to move through to make that solution a reality?
Yeah. So every game, people get a few different things. And this is how the Providence platform works and also how our methodology works.
Cool.
And so you open the game, you get an opening newsfeed. Each team gets a team packet, and they also get like a rules and executive summary of the game itself as well. Then for each turn, so each time that there's new information, you get a new newsfeed and you get private intelligence memos that tell you what's going on in the world. You then, in response to those memos or role players we send in physically or breaking news injects we send in, you submit moves that update the world itself. And so depending on the style of game, we either do 0-turn gameplay where it's continuous. There's no turns, there's no breaks for adjudication, which students and practitioners really love.
Yeah.
Or we do, which is awesome. Or we do, in our more analytical games, we'll have like short breaks for us to make those changes for the next turn and prep things. And usually in those breaks, we'll have expert discussions, period.
I think I read something about this on LinkedIn. I believe it was from you about creating those responses and having like realistic looking media populate for was that you? That I think it was.
We do a lot of work on, we talk on LinkedIn a ton, honestly.
Yeah.
And some of the things we talk about are definitely doing the social media that looks like social media. And as Peter Perla, who's kind of like one of the grandfathers of wargaming, says, you want to suspend reality as much as possible. And by making media look real, is the way you can do it.
Yeah, in theater, we call that the suspension of disbelief, right? Like making it feel like you're in this world. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Connecting some dots there for me. That's really cool.
I'm so glad.
There's such a craft to it too, right? There's such a cool nature of, I don't know, it feels like a really cool movie, but then you're just doing it, right? You're just creating these things in real time. These artifacts, really, right? Learning artifacts. That's fantastic. Anything else you want to say on that? Because I just want to hear more about it. Like, it just sounds fun. Like,
honestly, I think that's when, it gets back to the writing that we were talking about earlier, right?
Got
so
you.
in
Sure.
all of the materials that we create, whether on Providence or we're writing them with the use of AI on our own, but editing them, the form and setup of them is really important. So whenever I'm onboarding a new game designer, we work a lot on editing and making sure that the logic of the piece you're writing makes sense. So it's kind of the bringing together of all the things that we've talked about so far, right? The writing of materials, the engagement aspect, and then the
Yeah.
actual facilitation of it in person when you're having the materials written well together. Then you can have that game. And at the very end, it's really important that some people often neglect is a really engaging after action discussion or review
Sure.
where you go over and analyze what you've done. So
That was a strong discussion in a show I just recorded last week, was the debrief, like the importance of that
yes.
solid debrief. Yeah. So much can be lost if you don't have that, right?
I completely agree. And I like to always do it with at least one expert there and then at least one of the game designers, because then you get both sides of it.
Nice. So you got the subject matter expert there, and then awesome. That makes a lot of sense. I also like to always ask about like a greatest failure, or that's a really dramatic way of saying it, right? I guess I'm an American here. But what's a mistake that happened, or what was your biggest learning in creating one of these games?
I think there's always small mistakes that you make
Sure.
for when you're learning. I think an 80 or 90% success and 10%, 20% failure rate. If you're not hitting that, you're not trying enough new things, in my opinion.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
one of our earlier game fails, I think, was when we were just doing new iterations on Providence, right? So when we're doing new games and sometimes the tech goes down for a little bit. So we were running one game and one of our third party partners, their tech like they just went down. I don't know why. I'm not a techie on our team. But you need to be able to adapt, right? So we switched over to email very quickly and we had everything ready to send out and we could print things. And so
Cool.
it was a pushback to perhaps a more analog setup, but it just
Yeah.
shows the importance of being adaptable in whatever you do. And so while Providence and other simulation platforms out there are really helpful in facilitating and taking that logistics edge off and the time it takes to actually develop the materials, because the research is still very intense. You still have to spend a lot of time doing that. But the material
Sure.
development can be cut down.
Yeah.
You can still always go back to what it was before if need be. And so that kind of, showed me the importance of making sure we all remember the old ways too.
Yeah, and I love that. It's that callback to that analog way of doing
Yeah.
things. That's cool. It's important to know how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Very good example. Is there anything else I didn't ask you about that you wish I would have asked you about?
I don't really think so. I mean, you sent me over the questions ahead of time and I was like, wow, we really are going to go over my life trajectory. I think someone could impersonate me very successfully now. Maybe not my tone of voice, but with AI,
probably not me, but yeah, someone could.
someone, someone could, right? But no, I think one thing I'll just add on is that it is my belief that games show other people that people do have the bestest of intentions, right? A well-designed game, at least the games that we design and the direction we try to take them, push people to think that yes, others are working towards what they think their best interests are. And it teaches you to humanize this perspective. I think that's something that's really lost nowadays, is the humanization of the other and even defining them as the other in the first place. And so getting more people engaged in games, in my hope, is going to show the humanity that exists out there and is in everything we look at. We just don't always see.
I like that full circle. It feels like your closer is going to work really well as your opener. So thank you, Eleanor. I really appreciate your time. How can people reach out to you or connect with you online if they'd like to do so? Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I would say people can reach out to me through our Expert Theory website. If you just, there's a contact page on it. So if you just put a comment there, it comes straight to my email. And then on LinkedIn, if you add on LinkedIn, I usually respond to my messages within the week. So would love to chat with anyone.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Hope I get to play one of your games sometime.
Yes. Let me know. I'll get you definitely into one.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Game Layer. This is David Colmer reminding you to stay present and never postpone joy. You can find transcripts of the show at gamelayer.fm. GAMELAYER.fm. Theme music by Caleb Willits. Thanks for listening. Now go. Play.
I play chess.
I play Scrabble.
I play fauteuil.
I play everything.
Hide and seek with my kids.
I play the piano.
I play board games.
I play guitar.
I smash it on the pitch.
I play chess.
I play Othello.
I play all the Marios.
I play Success Strategist.
I play Street Fighter.
Final Fantasy.
I play games of my own invention. Games of my own invention. Games of my own invention. Games of my own invention.
There are many ways to play. Going for a walk together, doing nothing together is also playing. Anything that can cultivate your feeling of joy, relaxation, where you feel more recharged after doing that thing, and I think you can consider as something that we play with. I'd like to move to the domain of play